Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for taking a few moments. If you want to follow along, Genesis chapter 36, beginning in verse number 9 through 14. Today and tomorrow are going to be similar, both in the scripture themselves and really the message that it conveys. We are in a genealogy section of the life of Esau, tracing his family, which in the book of Genesis generally means we've seen pretty much the last of that character. That is typically how we move from one movement to another, is with a genealogy. And I'm not going to read all this to you from, I said, down through 9 verses, down through verse 14. Again, there is a whole long listing of names that list Esau's sons and his grandsons that were born there in Seir, or as it will become known later on in the book of Edom. A couple interesting things, and again, we're going to overlap some again tomorrow. But you'll notice that we just have their names. We don't have any history of this family, of what they did or didn't do. Really, the only piece of history in here is that we see here in verse number 12 that Amalek was born to a concubine, and so perhaps he was, some of the theory there is that he would have been picked on, ridiculed, even discriminated against by his family, which led him eventually, if you keep reading through the Old Testament, you will read about the Amalekites, and basically the thought is that because of this abuse, that Amalek moved way off and moved away from the family, and will ultimately become very bitter enemies of the people of Israel, and were actually the first country, the first people, the first nation that opposed Israel when they came back to the Promised Land after their Egyptian slavery. I don't have the ability to put this up for you where you can really see this family, but if you'll humor me and go along with me, you can probably sketch this out for yourself. If you were to put Esau at the top of the page, then you'd have his 5 sons. You'd have Eliphaz, Reuel, Jewish, Jalen, and Korah. Under those 5 sons, those would be the 5 sons of Esau. Only 2 of those children here do we have, Eliphaz and Reuel. Do we have any children listed? Eliphaz has Amalek with his concubine, Timah, and then he has other children. He has a list of children here with a wife that goes unnamed. He has 5 children there. If you look at the verse 11, these are the sons of Eliphaz, and it lists Teman, Omar, Zepho, Gaton, and Kenaz. Those were his 5 with his unnamed wife. Then verse 12 tells us he has another son, Amalek, who was born to a concubine. Then the next verse, in verse 13, these are the sons of Reuel. Then we have these 4 sons mentioned here, that they are listed there. Those are the only ones listed. Now, it is possible that there were some daughters born But we have, again, as would be typical in Scripture, in Old Testament times, no record of any females coming along. But that's the list of sons and grandsons. Nothing said about them other than their names, no history, nothing, no achievements, no good, bad, or indifferent. Oddly, really the only history we have is the fact that Timnah was born to a concubine. And so we see how Esau's choices and decisions that he had made throughout his life end up just kind of carrying over into his family, where they, again, they just kind of disappear. They just blend into society. Largely, again, no doubt they ended up marrying people from Seir or Edom, and their bloodline just basically vanishes. And that's something for us to pause and think about. Again, we're going to talk about that again some more tomorrow in the next section of what we're leaving behind, what heritage are we leaving, what legacy are we leaving. Again, when you take and again, I don't know if you tried to draw that out, but the family chart would be one name here, 5 names here. Then you'd have under the first name, you'd have one row with 1 son, one row with 5 sons. The second son, you'd have 4 sons. That's it. The other 3 sons, if there were children, any children born to them, we don't know about them. We don't know what these children, what these grandchildren became of them, other than to say they just simply blended into society. That there's, again, I'm not usually one to pay much attention to the genealogy sections of Scripture, because, again, it's a list of names I can't pronounce. But this is really a strong lesson for us that deserves our attention, that because of the decisions that this family makes, their family basically disappears with no trace. What a sad testimony. You think about it. Have a great day. We'll see you here tomorrow morning.